Hey everybody, I know that Airdrop is causing a bit of a challenge in some of our classrooms, and primarily that's because the iPads are by default named in a very random way. When you go to Airdrop, that can be challenging, especially if you're airdropping to a large group or if you're in the moment collaborating. First thing I need to mention is that the best way to share information with students, best practice, is to share images, information, web pages, things like that, either through Seesaw or Schoology. Now that's not always possible, I get it. Sometimes things don't work that you've posted and you need to airdrop, or sometimes you're collaborating and you need to airdrop it, and in that case we need Airdrop to be functional. So there are some things that we need to consider. First of all, Airdrop and the name of the iPad is really important. We use the name of the iPad obviously to identify who it belongs to, but in the real world, it's kind of like a beacon broadcasting out who that child is. And so if the child has their Airdrop on, somebody in the vicinity of them could pick up on that device and see the name, call out their name and say, hey, your mom sent me to pick you up. Like, that's very dramatic, but we don't want that to happen, right? So let's take some precautions and teach our students about how they can protect themselves through their device. With Airdrop and the naming of the device, we could have a really good digital citizenship discussion with our students and review with them what private information is and appropriate use of Airdrop. For private information, it would be important to remind our students that private information is their first and last name, their birthday, where they live, their mother's maiden name, things like their social security number, and where they go to school. So, keeping those things in mind, it would be really important to have a discussion with your class about what an appropriate naming convention is for the iPad. I could see where in your class you might have two purposes. First, to be able to collaborate and share information quickly with each other, but also to be able to identify who is in the class. So this is where some team building could come into play, and you could talk about possibly what a class code word would be, or what a class mascot might be. And then you could help them create a combination that would allow you to be able to identify them, but also them to identify each other while maintaining student choice. So you could consider things like picking a class emoji, and everybody's iPad name has that emoji in it. You might use a combination of the emoji and their initials, the emoji and something like their classroom number, which is pretty innocuous by the time they leave the classroom because it's just like a number you assign to them and only you guys know. That would be a good one. Or their initials and the number on their iPad. And so as you guys talk about the private information and how to name their device and why they name their device the way they do, what you're doing is you're helping to instill in them a practice that could transfer into the real world when possibly they get their own phone. And then they would understand how to protect their identity with their personal device. So it's a pretty big conversation, and one I would not skip. One more thing to consider before we get into how to change the name on the iPad is the idea that students don't always need to have their Airdrop on. As many of you know already, this can provide us with a pretty big distraction in class. So before you go ahead and change or help students change the name of their iPad, it would be important for you to go over why we use Airdrop and that we shouldn't have it on all the time. So just show students where they can turn Airdrop on and off, and then get in a routine of asking them to turn it on or having them ask for it to be turned on in order to share. So if you understand why we should have this conversation and the digital citizenship things that we need to consider, I think we're ready to look at how we change the name on the iPad. So this is how you change the name of the iPad to help facilitate Airdrop. You are going to have your students open settings, go to general, about, and name. And then here, this is where you can change the name to a more appropriate name that does not give away students' personal identifiable information. This way, when the teacher goes to airdrop something or a classmate goes to airdrop something, they can see that everybody's in the same class with that emoji or keyword or something that stands out for everybody. Then we are going to make sure that our airdrop is off so that we are being good digital citizens. We are going to drop our finger down to open up the control center. And then where the airdrop symbol is, it's like a little circle with a pyramid in the middle. You're going to touch that and choose receiving off. Students will turn that on when they need to airdrop specifically or when they need to receive an airdrop. And that's how we can protect student privacy on the iPad.